And here we go. So the first thing you'll see is that they will rename their characters to just one character, one sign. That's fairly common for these kinds of games, RPGs and stuff. Basically, that just comes down to every letter of a character's name takes time, like takes a frame basically to be typed out. So by renaming your characters to one letter, you save some time there. One minor thing is that the timing for this race started when they selected the between the active and the wait different combat modes, basically. Normally you would start on the pendulum if you're doing normal runs. There's going to be some menuing here where they will set, the runners will set the battle speed to 1. That's the fastest. And they will also set the battle cursor to memory. This is really important for a couple of reasons I'll get to in a bit. And I unfortunately didn't catch if either or both of the runners did this, but you can also, if you want to, you can change your control layout, and that's going to be important in a little bit, so I'll get back to that as well. So here we're meeting Marl, and there's a couple of things we do in a very specific order here. So you bump into Marl, you run up and pick up the pendant. Yes, pendant first before talking to Marl, and that's important because well, again, a lot of these things, I'm going to say this a couple times, a lot of these things are going to be important later. But yeah, this is going to be important for specifically for a trial section later that is fairly infamous. And now we're gonna learn about time travel, and you're supposed to, normally you're supposed to test the machine for Luca here and step on the left pad and be teleported to the right one, but you can just run down and talk to Marl instead, and that triggers the next part of the scene. So I mentioned earlier the battle cursor being set to memory. Normally you would have to select attack if you want to attack something. In this game you would have to select attack and then select an enemy. With battle cursor on, first of all, as the name suggests, the game remembers where you, like what part of the menu you last used. So if you use an item, then the cursor will default to item next time you get into combat. Stuff like that. The other thing that memory cursor does is it allows you to hold the menu button, or press and hold the menu button to attack instead of actually a selecting attack, which again, in combination with what I just mentioned with the game remembering where you were in the menu, that ends up being really, really useful, and has the effect of whenever you enter combat, if you hold down the menu button, which by default is X, but again you can change that, it has the effect of you attacking on the first, or locking in an attack on the first possible frame, which in some fights is essential. It's really, really important. So now we do some time traveling, totally intended. And then we get to our first battle. One thing that I didn't mention at the very beginning is the runners made sure to delete their save files before starting the run. Yeah, they deleted their save files before starting the run, and that's important because then you start off on the same. When you start the run, you will start off on the same RNG every single time. So we got a couple things going on here. On Kiitoksia's side, there was a little bit of delay, so I'm sorry about that. On Kiitoksia's side, you saw he would like run over the bridge and like do a little bit of weird movement. To see it on BackgroundGuy's side now. You basically just line up in the corner of the bridge and then just run up and let the little curve like push you away or push you around the trigger for the fight. And that dodges a fight with a bird. We'd also seen in the first fight that, again, because we start off the game on the same RNG every single time, everything in the entire run essentially is planned out. So what attacks you do, what encounters you get into, and who you target, everything is planned out in theory. It's absolutely ways you can end up off RNG, which is the primary thing that will screw you over a little bit in this run, or give you some trouble. Because the script that we follow is as optimal as possible, and then if you end up off script, then usually it's not a huge deal, but you will lose some time, that's for sure. So since we start off on the same RNG every single time, you would see people use very specific attacks and very specific orders to keep their RNG seed, or keep their RNG in the right spot. So we can get very beneficial patterns, especially for bosses. So now we chase after our new friend, and she just disappears, and then we get a little lesson on how time travel works. So for those who aren't familiar with the story of this game, basically the idea is that our friend gets sent back in time 400 years, and in this time that we're currently in, the queen of the kingdom is captured, and normally she would be found and everything would be fine, and she would have daughters and stuff like that. And then you see the whole ancestry here, the chain of characters that follow as a result of the queen having kids. And then since one of her descendants ended up in this time zone, she looks a lot like the queen of this era. So as a result, they call off the whole operation to get her back, find her again after she's been kidnapped. So as a result, you see all the characters disappear, and our friend now just ceases to exist, basically. So that's what we're currently trying to do, is save the queen, so that's not a problem. So on Kiitoksia's side here, he was supposed to get the first attack on Chrono on the middle roller rider before he attacked. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, which means we're going to be a little bit off RNG here. But again, it shouldn't be a huge deal, but we'll see. And I did notice BackgroundGuy is using, for the first fight, he was using an older pattern, I believe, and just a different pattern than I'm used to. So I don't recognize these fights specifically. So yeah, Kiitoksia is probably gonna have a slightly slower Naga fight in a little bit, but we will see. They also grab a power tab here. That's gonna be important later. Only increases your power by 1, I believe, or attack by 1, but with how tight this run is, that ends up mattering quite a bit. So now in the cathedral, we find a hairpin with a royal crest on it, and then we get into the Naga fight. So for the Naga fight, you want to input an attack first, and then the idea is to get rid of hopefully 3 Nagas in one flame world or fire world. Just going on right here, and then you hope to not get this this thing that's happening right now, the slow spell, because the slow spell, as its name would suggest, is fairly slow. So BackgroundGuy seems to be on the right RNG here, so everything works out beautifully. Caught up a little bit there. And with the way the RNG works and can deviate a little bit, the movement of the Nagas can be, or is random, so that fight can be a bit, well, it can take a very long time if you end up not in a good spot. And yeah, Kiitoksia having some trouble with naming characters. That's okay. It's not a huge deal, and especially not in this category. I guess I should also mention this is a partial category. Basically, it's not a full 90%. It only goes up to about the halfway, or slightly more than the halfway point, until the first fight with Magus. And it's a really nice stopping point for a race category, because it's the route for every single category of Chrono Trigger the route is the exact same until you get to Magus. So it's very convenient. So for this section of the cathedral, there's a lot of fights to dodge. You'll see some kind of weird movement here and there. And there's another fight here, which again, because Kiitos is slightly off RNG, he might not get the crits he wants. Like there, you want Frog to crit on both of the Diablos. That didn't happen this time, so he will have to do an extra attack, depending on if he gets the crits next time. He might have to do 1 or 2. Yeah, so 2 more attacks basically. So again, you will see BackgroundGuy pull ahead a little bit here as a result. After we play the organ, we'll get to the first glitches of the game, which is going to be quite a bit to explain. I'll try my best, and if I miss something, then we'll get it. So the first thing we're going to see here is an example of the fade out glitch. Basically, you run into a load zone for an area, and then you open the menu to cancel the load, and then you keep doing that. You can just keep opening and closing the menu to delay going to the next area. And right now you see some equipment stuff that is kind of interesting. So basically, you go from one character quickly over to another character and you press R and up or L and down on the same frame, and you end up being able to equip nothing in characters' item slots or equipment slots, which you're normally not supposed to be able to do, and it has some very interesting effects. So what it does is it allows it allows you, or it doesn't allow you, sorry. It gives you a bunch of magical defense against every element except fire, I believe. And it also, on the US version, it also gives you a bunch of magical attack. So you end up doing a whole bunch of damage and taking a whole bunch less damage, which is very, very convenient. This whole section also looks really weird because of something they did. It's part of the fade out glitch. So the fade out glitch, I just wanted to explain the equipment stuff first. So the whole point of the fade out glitch is to delay the loading zone, of course, and then they move so they stand on top of the save point right as the game finally moves you into the new load zone. And by doing that, you get something called the save anywhere glitch, which, again, as the name would suggest, lets you save anywhere. So we use that to run up and save past or save inside the trigger. I'm not exactly sure specifically how it works, but you basically save in a specific spot, and that allows you to skip the entire Yakra fight, because it keeps your control, or it keeps letting you have control of your characters during that whole section. So yeah, you just skip the entire Yakra fight. So very convenient. And then we save the day, save the queen, and as a result, save our friend. Which, of course, makes us the hero of the story, but some people have a different view on it later on. We'll see. And one thing about the save anywhere glitch is that it stays, you keep that state of being able to save wherever you want until you enter a screen with another save point, and that just takes it away from you, so you will have to set it up again. And on BackgroundGuy's side, you will see that in use again in a little bit. So just gonna run up here and save, and then reset with a very specific timing, because the way the RNG is determined in this game is by how long you idle on the load screen. So where you choose what save you want to load. So they both reload with a very specific timing. This one isn't like super specific, but it's still like fairly precise. And the idea is that by loading on the specific, or with the specific timing, you end up on the same RNG every single time. And that's going to be very good for the next section, which is the prison section. And of course, it's primarily going to be important for the dragon tank fight. So we make it back safe and sound, our little trio of friends. And then we're asked to escort the young princess back to the castle, which isn't going to turn out well for us. Also see both players like grind against the trees going through the forest and stuff. And that's just to make sure you avoid the fight triggers. Also on Kiitoksia's side, you would see that he went through the whole candy cutscene, which BackgroundGuy actually went through the normal way, I would say, where before you end up going back in time, you trigger the cutscene where you were Marl wants to buy candy. Kiitoksia did what's known as candy skip, which I'm not gonna pretend I know how it works. But basically, it's just some pretty precise movement to get around the trigger for it, and then avoid having to sit through that cutscene. Which is very useful for a different category of this, New Game Plus. It's not as important in a category like this, because you will have to sit through that cutscene on the way back. But I think it saves 1 second overall, even in this case. So this is one of my favorite sections of the game. It's the trial section, and it's probably one of the sections people remember like the fondest, or remember the most, I guess. Because they're pretty much everything you do early in the game affects this scene, one way or another. And our whole goal through this section in the speedrun is to, of course, finish this as fast as possible, which involves getting the verdict guilty. If we get guilty, then there are fewer text boxes later on, so it saves about 5 or 6 seconds. So you will see our runners select the second option whenever there is an option, which happens twice. And if you don't select the second option for either of those options or questions, then you will not get guilty. So this second jury member, oh, BackgroundGuy got guilty. That's good. There are 7 jury members, and they are all set, or predictable, I guess, except the second one. The second one is completely random, so if you get guilty on the second one, then you're pretty set. Let's see, on Kiitoksia's side. He also got guilty. Good stuff. So now we're sent to jail to await our execution, like the terrorists we are. And then we'll see our first spot where you can kind of check if you're on the right RNG. So you can check if your reload earlier was good or bad. And you do that by seeing your damage rolls on the guard that we're gonna attack. After very sneakily breaking out of jail. So this jail is very nice. They leave you coffee in the corner. They also leave you a save point, which I assume both the runners are gonna grab for safety. And then they also don't take your weapons away, which is very convenient. We're pretty lax on security here. Kiitoksia also grabbing the safety checkpoints, or save points. And here we want 60 damage on the guard, and we get that, good. That means we're on the right RNG, and assuming we don't get into any extra fights throughout the whole prison section, we will be on a very, very nice RNG for the, or very nice pattern for the Dragon Tank boss fight. BackgroundGuy is now doing a really long fade out section. This one is for the purpose of skipping a fight in the middle of the bridge. So you just once again go into the door and then keep opening and closing the menu to delay the load screen, basically, or the loading into the next area. And then trigger it by triggering the fight, and that skips the entire fight. Also saw Kiitoksia get the right RNG, or the right damage roll for the guard, which is good. And BackgroundGuy sneaking around the very oblivious guards. The guards turn around randomly, as far as I know, in 3 or 4 directions. I guess there's only 3 directions. 2 or 3 is what I meant to say. Here we go. And one last fade out to skip the last fight with the guards there. And now we get to see how Kiitoksia does on the stealthy part. So you want to run up to this last guard when he's facing down. You want to run up to the first guard when he's facing right, and the second guard when he's facing down. That'll allow you to get through. And last area, or last fight for Kiitoksia to skip. Good. Okay, so they're both on the right. They're both on the right RNG, which should make the dragon tank fight fairly easy. So since everything is manipulated and everything is predictable, we get a lot of crits on the head for the dragon tank, which allows us to kill it very, very quickly and basically out damage the healing the head does. So we're gonna focus all our attacks on the head until it dies, and then we'll deal with the body and the wheels. Alright, so BackgroundGuy attempted to do a little bit of a fancy thing to a little bit of a trick to skip one dragon tank's attacks. Fortunately, didn't quite work out, but it's not a big deal. Should still finish off the tank with this attack. There we go. And we'll see the same trick is going to come up on Kito's side now. So he's after Dragon Tank's first attack, he stays in Lucas' tech menu, and then as the damage value disappears, he just quickly closes it and reopens it and locks in the flame toss attack. And that just skips the flame breath from or flame throw, or whatever it's called for the Dragon Tank. So it's a couple seconds. Nicely done. BackgroundGuy got a little bit of a nice time save earlier. We'll see if Kito gets the same. Grab a shelter here for use later. And here you basically, yeah, there we go. Normally, if you just run directly down out of that, out of those the stairs, you will trigger a little bit of dialogue and a little scene with people being mad at you, being escape prisoners and stuff. So by just, once again, similar to the bird skip earlier, you just like kind of hug a corner and it pushes you around the trigger. And that way you can get past it. And now to escape our the people chasing us, we will just go through this random portal and end up in the future, which is cool. Yeah, as far as the story and the plot goes in this game, you won't catch much of it. First of all, because we of course just mashed through all the text boxes and can make it fairly hard to read. But also just because we don't really do a lot of the story, and we skip a lot of stuff. So Background Guy just started Lab 16, which is a pretty interesting section. There are a bunch of fights that we can skip by using these rats. So basically what we're doing is we pick up something off of it or out of a chest and then run into one of the rats, so they start stealing from you. They will start by stealing tonics if you have any, and if you don't, then they will steal 500 gold. And by opening a chest and having the you got this item menu or text box open, and then getting something stolen from you, it will actually allow you to move through. Combat encounters, which is very, very useful. The items we're picking up there is also important. You get a berserker, a load sword, and finally a load bow, which are all going to be useful. Berserker is like one of the best items in the game. Alright, here you will see both players will change their controls around. And the reason for that is that in this room, first of all, we're going to do a fade out glitch to skip a fight. This is the Guardian boss fight. And the reason we want to change our controls around is because in that room there is a different fight, and you will trigger it if you press the X button. Not the menu button, but the X button, which is the default menu button. But yeah, it's just interesting that it's hard-coded to be the X button, not the actual button that menu is bound to. So we'll see some equips going on, and then again the changing of the controls. So some runners will do that menu right there. Other players will do the menu right at the beginning. At the beginning of the run, when you're setting your battle speed and all that stuff. Background guy taking his time and chasing down and catching the rats. The rat gives you the solution to opening the next section, which is just holding L and R and pressing A. Sneaking around those bugs nicely. Yeah, it looked like something was going on with Kito's game there. The screen just stayed black for a while. I'm not sure what that was about. Right, so another example of the fade out glitch on the Background Guy's side here. This fade out skips half of this cutscene and has the amazing side effect of putting Luca and Marl inside the consoles there, which is always a good sight. Kito's also catching the rat just fine. If you fail to catch the rat before it runs off screen, you will have to go back and catch it again. Now as the background guys approach this room. You can do this room really, really fast. Okay, taking it safe there. That's fine. You can do that room super, super fast, but it can be kind of sketchy. So Taking it safe makes perfect sense. Not a big time loss anyway, we're talking like a second. Depending on how long you wait. So we go down to the Guardian area and we bring back a seed. Then we trade the seed for a bike key, which is a pretty solid trade. Would be happy with that. And then we head over to Lab 32, which will do another section that's fairly famous, which is the race with the man, aka Johnny. So yeah, really close race so far. This is good. This is very good. And one section coming up is actually going to be a bit of an equalizer, so it can go very well or it can go not so well. And yeah, we'll see. One of the few sections that are completely random, so you take what you can get. So you'll see Background Guy here bounce in front of Johnny during the race. This is faster than driving normally, and it's faster than just bouncing behind him. The safest way of doing this race is just to let Johnny get ahead of you and just bounce behind him over and over and over again until you get to the end. But it is a decent bit slower than staying ahead. And the most important thing, of course, is to win the race. If you don't win the race, then you have to do it again. And it costs a good amount of time, so Background Guy got it, which is very good. It's a simple race, but it's surprisingly easy to just slip up a little bit and then you just, oh, okay, well, never mind. So for this fight on Background Guy's side, you'll see Marl with the Berserker crit. And then you can finish off the second guy with Chrono and Luca, and get hit once, and then Marl is going to crit again. And once again, this is all based on the, or planned out because of the RNG we're currently on. And it's going to be used for one more fight, and then it's going to be up to the gods of RNG. Look at Kiitoksia race here. Playing it safe, bouncing behind Johnny until the rest meter is at like 30, like 40, 30, 20, something like that. And then just using one boost to win the race very safely. That's good. He is also on the correct RNG, so the fight will look the exact same as for Background Guy. One crit, an attack by Chrono, and a flame toss by Luca, and then another crit. You will also see, right after this fight, you will see, normally you run through this entire game, because it's fast. Running is faster than walking. Who knew? But right here, the runners will slow down and walk. That's because those robots don't trigger a fight unless you run. If you walk, then they don't notice you and just stay in sleep mode. So now we revive our robot companion, well, now our friend, and then we head to the factory. Once again, walking past that fight, make sure it doesn't trigger. And now for the last bit of RNG, or where the RNG is important. After this, it will all be jumbled up and impossible to predict. But for this fight, oh, Keito going with the Bobo name, good. Because for this fight, the acid has very high defense, so you will hit a lot of ones and twos and stuff like that, which is very slow because they have 10 health. But because of the RNG being manipulated and predictable, by attacking once with Chrono and then with Robo, we get a crit with Robo, and Robo actually hits really hard. And that crit will ensure you hit for 10, and then it's just insta-win, which is good. And this will be the first fight we run away from. So you just hold down left and right, or L and R, sorry. And then you can do a thing just referred to as menu trick, which means you open the, while holding down L and R, you open the tech or item menu of a character, and then you can just stay there and close it again. And that will basically refresh your runaway counter or whatever you want to call it, and give you a high chance of escaping. So on the right here with Background Guy, you see he got 3 red slimes and 2 green ones. This again is completely RNG. It's not completely random. That's wrong. That's wrong to say, because you can manipulate it by doing very specific things. But basically, there are 60 patterns per second, and they will cycle through every frame. So actually manipulating them can be very, very hard, and you can get anywhere from any combination of green and yellow, or green reds, sorry. And you want as many greens as possible, because they have 1 less health and way less defense. And you also, more importantly, you don't want to attack green slimes that are next to red slimes, because then they do a counterattack. Alright, so kind of similar patterns here. Keito got 3 green and 2 red, and Background Guy got 3 red and 2 green. Background Guy made it through just fine. So in this fight can be very annoying. But basically, Robo deals a lot of damage. And cyclones you want to cyclone with Chrono whenever you can. Again, whenever you can safely do that, because that also deals a decent bit of damage. And as you see here, depending on your damage rolls, of course, depends on your luck, you get 4 in 1. That's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. Another 1 from Robo. But yeah, basically when a cyclone, whenever you can cyclone multiple people safely, it's very, very good. You just want to make sure you have at least 8 MP left on Chrono by the end of this fight, because we will need all of those MP for cyclones in the next boss fight. Interesting thing about this lock mechanism, or this password section, where you're supposed to type in like Sabi or Sabi or whatever it tells you. You're supposed to press X, A, B, and Y in that order, but if you just put your palm over all the face buttons and just hold them down, then the game will just like say like ping, 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 and just input it all for you. It's very interesting. So after this quick cutscene, we'll get into the R-Series fight, which can be kind of scary because you need to input a cyclone at the very beginning of the fight very, very quickly. It needs to be super, super fast. So, and if you're a bit late in this fight, then bad things can and will happen. Yeah, and depending on how the robots treat you, you can manage and you can save it just fine, but it can be pretty dicey. See, that's a good one. BackgroundGuy getting off the first cyclone before any of the robots attack. So for this fight you want to cyclone the front row, and then cyclone the back row twice, and then cyclone the front row again. Now BackgroundGuy going for a strat I haven't seen in a while, where basically you can either attack and then flame toss the bottom of the or one of the front guys, or you can instead use a mid tonic to heal up. Okay, Kiito also getting the cyclone off just fine, and BackgroundGuy is all done. Good stuff. See if Kiito has the same approach. Kiito going for the mid tonic instead, which is a bit of a safety strat, I guess. I believe that's the more common approach. But of course both work just fine. Kiitoksia also in the clear. So once again, still very close here. I'll get you an idea of how close in a little bit. So on the BackgroundGuy's screen, we are now at the end of time. We end up here because we attempted to use a portal with 4 or more people, and that's a big no-no when it comes to time travel. So we end up in the end of time and we have to leave one of our friends here. Right, so about 50 seconds between the two right now. Not a lot at all. And this is one of the greatest characters in the game, Specchio. Specchio is the master of war. He knows all about magic. So he's going to teach us a little bit of magic. And how do you learn magic in this world? You run around a room 3 times and then think magic. And then you know magic. Makes sense. And then there's a very important thing coming up now. Right after you learn magic, Spekio offers you to, well, suggest that you try out your new magic, but that's very slow. So we definitely want to make sure we select no, so we avoid having to do this fight. Alright, time to see if Kito fought magic enough. Alright, he's good. Alright, background guy not going for cake and dash. Let's see if Kito does when he goes here. Now we head over to Hekron Cave. So, like I said earlier, our RNG is all like jumbled up from the slime fight. So whether Marl crits or not, right there is completely random. Right, so on Kito's side, you will see ate the cake, and then quickly switch this party around, and that allows you to move out of the house way sooner. You don't have to sit through all the text. With people talking about the story of this place. Saves a decent bit of time. Alright, so Kito not getting the crits, whereas Background Guy did. Saves in attacks, so saves a few seconds. And most Background Cave is just avoiding encounters and running from encounters. Once again, you'll see pretty frequent use of, or liberal use of, the menu glitch, the menu trick, where you, while you run away, you open the menu, take your item menu, and then close it again to refresh your runaway. Now a fade out to skip this fight, and then some movement to sneak around those bats, and we're all good. And now we're coming up on one of the harder sections as far as glitches go. I'm going to use a fade out glitch to get over to the save point and establish save anywhere again. And we can use save anywhere to save in this corner. This is the safer setup. And load back in, and then run up and try to open the menu and save past the trigger for the boss fight. So that should be good, I think, for our background guy. Yes, he's fine. So now we can just run up, touch Hekron, and then run back, and then you skip the entire boss fight. The second try is nicely done. Now let's see on Kito's side. Going for the same setup. And he got it. That looks really good. One thing you may also notice is that Background Guy has a different team than Kito does. So Kito traded in Marl for Robo. And that's because after the Hekron skip, there are some text boxes talking about the history of this game, and Marl has an extra text box or two that Robo does not. So just a little optimization there. I know I'm excited to see if we're gonna see some end of time save anywhere. Alright, so Background Guy is definitely going for it. So this one has this trick has a lot of very precise movement. You basically hold upright just as you enter the end of time. Oh, it does not unbuffer as well. Okay, so Background Guy did not get it, unfortunately. it's not a big deal. Let's see on Kito's side. I'll try to explain a bit more in detail in a bit. Kito also going for it. So the idea is you run upright right as you enter the end of time. That causes a little bit of a breakaway from the rest of you, with your first character from the rest of your team. And you can line up by this health bucket. And right as your character starts moving, you basically move up and you store one of the pillars from where you select where you want to go. And then you run over to the bucket that heals you, and you just trigger both the heal and the teleport, or the pillar rather, the stored pillar, at the same time. And then once your character starts moving over to the pillar, you can open the menu and switch your team around, and then you get save anywhere. It's a bit more complicated than most other areas where you can get save anywhere, but it saves a decent bit of time. I think it's like 30 seconds. Because what BackgroundGuy will know how to do, because he doesn't have save anywhere yet, he'll have to go over to the cathedral from earlier and run a decent bit into the cathedral to the save point to establish save anywhere again. I think BackgroundGuy accidentally set his combat speed to 8, which is not ideal. But we'll see. We'll see how he deals with that. So yeah, you will now see him run over to the cathedral to get save anywhere for the next skip, which is also fairly precise. So probably the hardest skip in the game, in my opinion, at least. Whereas Kito can just run straight to the bridge and start somewhere skip. So for this one, you want to do, you want to walk for a certain amount of frames, and you want to run for a certain amount of frames, basically. Because of how triggers work, they like kind of move around, so it's very strange. Basically, you want to get past this guard that's on the ground, and you want to save past him. That will give you control to move to the next guard. You want to save past that guy, and then load back in, and then you skip the entire bridge section, which Kito did first try. That was beautiful. And BackgroundGuy nailed as well. Awesome. So yeah, now we're really, really neck and neck. This is really cool. We'll see a slight difference here, where BackgroundGuy does some shopping before going to the Denadora Mountains, whereas Kito saves it for after Denadora Mountains. Kito also saved in a very specific spot here, and that allows you, when you load back in, to just go up a level, and that skips a long sequence with Tata, I believe his name is. Then you load back in with what's known as a mash load, which basically just means you mash. So you want to see as little of the menu as possible. Also was a slight hiccup there, so I'm going to try again. That sounds good. Basically, the idea is just to load in as fast as possible. You don't want to, optimally, you don't want to see the load screen at all. You just want to get straight back into gameplay. And that allows you to get the correct RNG again, as always. This is all, every reload is for the purpose of manipulating RNG and ending up on the right seed. So both of them now making their way through Denadora. This section is really, really cool because you don't get into any encounters after that initial one, but there are so many of them, and you just keep running around triggers all throughout the the area, so the movement here is very, very cool, very fun. So yeah, all of this movement is just to avoid combat triggers. Get a safety save here before Masamune. Background guy not going for it. Background guy also has a speed tab from that he picked up earlier, so he didn't need to pick up that speed tab that Kito did. Sneak past this bird. And then head into Masa and Mune. We're seeing some differing strats here, which is always fun. So Background Guy going for a Hypno Wave strat, where you basically just put Moon to sleep, and then you kill off Masa. And you can also see he has a different party. He has Marl and Luca, which he's going to use for the dual tech Antipode to kill Masamune when they combine. And Kito, on the other hand, is going for... he has Berserker on Chrono. So he's going to rely a lot on Chrono's crits to deal a lot of the damage. And then he's going to use Fire and Rocket Punch, or Flame Punch, or Fire Punch, depending on what strat he goes for. We will see. Let's go for Fire Punches. So yeah, slightly different, or actually very different strats here, which is always fun to see. Especially when it's this close. Unfortunately, I cannot claim to remember the exact pattern for the Antipode strat, so I will just put my faith in Background Guy knowing what he's doing. Whereas the Fire Punch strat on the left, everything looks like it's going just fine. Be a little bit sketchy. Oh, so Marl is dead on the right side here. Chrono is dead on the left. Okay, this is gonna be interesting. So neither fight working out all that smoothly for any of our runners. So, Masamune is currently in his storing tornado energy phase, which means every time you attack him, he will counterattack, which can be dangerous. And ooh. That's it for Kito. Unfortunately, he will have to restart from his safety save earlier. That is very unfortunate. On Background Guy's side of things, you will see those that shopping he did earlier, buying some health items, some recovery items, is serving him well, because Luca died once again. Alright, so what is going on for Keto now is he reloaded with the same timing as earlier, the mash load, and he's trying to get into a different fight to get his RNG back on track for the script for Masamune. On the Background Guy's side, we will see a lot of heals, playing things safe, getting the antipods out whenever we can, to hopefully burn him down soon. Yeah, this being a new backup does not surprise me, because I've never seen this before. And it's definitely interesting to see. Alright, Background Guy getting through Masa. Not gonna say without a hitch, but he got through it. That's the important part. So we're gonna take a pretty sizable lead now as a result. So now that we've defeated Masamune, we get part of the sword, the broken sword. I'm gonna try to piece this thing back together and make a very powerful weapon that will be instrumental to the fight that gives this category its name, the fight against Magus. I'll see Background Guy stop by Tata's house. This is the little kid we skipped earlier. So some things happen a bit out of sequence here, which is fine. We just talked to him to get the hero medal, which is also going to be important. Start some fights here, and then go meet up with our good friend Frog. Or in Background Guy's case, Og. Alright, so now Kito's starting again with the Masamune fight. Let's hope it goes smoother this time. The fight getting kind of out of hand can be very sketchy, just because especially in Kito's case, since he didn't do any of his shopping before going to Denadaro, so he doesn't have any healing items. He has one revive and one or two mid tonics, and that's about it. So very low on the healing items, whereas Background Guy made sure to do his shopping ahead of time, so he had a lot more health items to work with. What this means, of course, is that after this fight, Kito will still have to go actually do his, like, he will have to go do his shopping, because he will need items. So now that we have the blade and the hilt of the broken Masamune, we will head back to this house, and we will go see Melchior, who will help us fix the sword. We don't want to talk to Melchior really, so we just fade out all the way up to him, and then talk to him, and then we skip having to talk to him, which is very nice. So everything is looking better on Kito's side now. And there we go. Got through that just fine. So I would say there's about 4 minutes between the runners at this point. So you'll see how quickly it shifts, how quickly it changes. Which is why races are fun. Right, on BackgroundGuy's side, you will see something that only happens here. The movement of the movement of these green guys is basically decided by when you close the text boxes. So we have very specific visual cues for when to close the text boxes. We keep them open until the little green guys are in like a specific position, and then you close them. And that makes this fight work out really, really well. But they group up in a nice way, so it's way easier to deal with. So now you will see Kito doing his shopping at a different store than BackgroundGuy did. Meanwhile, I believe... Let's see. Okay, I'm going for the flame glass. BackgroundGuy is just using slightly different strats than I'm used to. I'm not all that knowledgeable about a lot of different strats. I haven't been around for that long. And he gets to meet Ayla. Ayla is one of those characters where it's actually fairly important to rename her to just one letter, because a lot of the other ones it's not that important, like Frog and Robo. But Ayla is very important because Ayla refers to herself in third person. So Ayla talks about Ayla a lot. So we're just showing up and clearing out some dinosaurs. We are invited to a party, so we're gonna go have some fun at a dance party. As we see Kito chatting with 999G, classic character. You'll also notice that BackgroundGuy swapped out Marl for Robo. That's because Marl is incredibly slow to deal with for this next section. She wants to dance for like an hour, it seems. Also, we got a new on Kito's side. News are, of course, good luck. But yeah, so Marl wants to dance for a long time, whereas Robo just like chills out by the food for a bit, and then you can move on. Then we get to the hardest minigame of the run, which is the soup eating competition. Where basically you just mash the A button over and over again until you win, eat enough soup. One thing to note is that before the next like big section with fights and a boss fight at the end, Background Guy will have to save and reload to get back on RNG, whereas Kiitoksia is still on the correct RNG, so he will not have to do that. And we'll see the same thing again on Kiitoksia's side, where you fade out to when you talk to Melchior, so you don't have to talk to him at all, really. And we'll see another fade out glitch on Background Guy's side. We will fade out this cutscene with Kino. Kino is an interesting character. And this whole section has a ton of fights. So the movement here is fairly precise, or not precise, but fairly specific, I should say. To just run around all the fights in this section and not get into a single one. Kito accidentally selecting Cyclone instead of Slash for this first attack. That's gonna put him off RNG, unless he has a way to deal with it, of course. There's a Background Guy not doing a save load as backup. It is entirely possible that he did it earlier, and I just didn't notice. We'll see now. If he gets hit for 34, then everything is fine. It's 32, but I guess he's just gonna go for it. The RNG is only really important for the boss fight at the end of this, with Nisbel. And Nisbel is a very easy fight anyway, because we use the unequipped glitch. So to reiterate a little bit, refresh your minds, the unequipped glitch gives us a ton of magic attack, bonus magic attack, and it gives us a bunch of magic defense. And since Nisbel's counterattacks basically are magic, we will take practically no damage from Nisbel in the fight. So there's essentially no danger of dying in that fight. However, of course, it's a slight time loss, but nothing too bad. Nothing we can't manage. He'd also meeting up with Ayla, or in his case, Jay. As Background Guy gets into the Nisbel encounter. So the main mechanic or main approach to a lot of these fights in this section is that dinosaurs will be stunned by lightning. You use lightning to stun them, and then you deal a bunch of damage and kill them. That's pretty much it. And same goes for Nisbel, where you will open up with an attack because Ayla is currently wearing the Berserker, so she's out of our control basically. But we will stun Nisbel with lightning, and then use fire and hopefully a lot of crits from Ayla to finish off this fight fairly easily. Yeah, the time difference right now is because of the Massimin fight. Kiitoksia ended up dying in the Massimin encounter, so he had to go for a backup load and do it again. Whereas Background Guy had He also had some trouble in the Masamune fight, but he went for a safer, a bit slow and steady approach, and it paid off. So you'll see, even though Chrono is getting a little bit low on health on the BackgroundGuy's side here, it's really not a huge deal. Not getting a ton of crits here, but yeah, this fight is very manageable, even off RNG. So you'll see here, one of the releases electrocution energy will hit for 20, 30, 40, so really not very dangerous at all. I believe new spells should be going down in a little bit. There we go. And once again, on Kito's side, see a fade out to skip the Kino cutscene. And then the whole section of dodging a lot of fights throughout this jungle area. One minor thing here on BackgroundGuy's side was that he moved diagonally down and then diagonally out of the door to skip a text box, basically. Okay, Kito going for a safety save before entering the Reptile lair, but not actually resetting for the RNG. Once again, the fight with Nispel is so easy to deal with, so it does also look like he's on the right RNG, so it wouldn't be necessary anyway. Guess he must have made up for that in a way that I didn't notice. And BackgroundGuy made sure right before we left the prehistoric era, made sure to pick up a second Berserker. And now heading back to Melchior. Once again, we will fade out all the way up to Melchior and talk to him. But before we do that, we make sure to swap in Marl for Robo, because it's faster. So Melchior here will walk around the room, and whenever he stops, if you run into him, he speeds up a bit, like he does whatever he's doing slightly faster. So you see whenever Chrono is shaking his head, that's BackgroundGuy running up into Melchior to speed things up. We get the Masamune, which is a very powerful sword and extremely useful against Magus. So we get to see Big Boy Nisbal once again. So Kito is gonna, assuming he stays on script, he's gonna make up some time here from having a more optimal fight. BackgroundGuy going for bird skip once again. It's the last bird skip we'll see. Now he's gonna go into cutscene heaven. BackgroundGuy getting a new of his own. That's good. Once again, news for good luck. Then we hand the sword over to Frog, and then we get a good chunk of cutscenes explaining some of the origin of Frog, or as he was previously known, Glenn. Alright, Keito finishing off Nisbel. You can tell that was a decent bit faster than BackgroundGuy's fight. So he's making up some time there. And honestly, this is still fairly close. It might seem like there's a lot of distance between the two runners, but a lot of things can happen in Magus Castle. So, and it's a section where mistakes are very punishing. So, let's hope it goes smoothly for both of them. But again, it can be a bit of an equalizer, depending on how well or bad things go. So now we get to see the scene where our hero Glenn gets turned into a frog by Magus, the evil wizard. As Keito starts work on the Masamune. And now we, on BackgroundGuy's side, we select our team to go face the evil Magus. Head over to his secret lair. And looks like one new for BackgroundGuy is all we're gonna get. And then it's time for some more cutscenes. This is part 2 of the Glenn story. Let's see Kiitoksia's bird skip. That went just fine. Which also means he should be on RNG for Magus Lair. Magus Castle, rather. For now, only one new for Quito as well. And Frog getting the hero medal, floating downstream, and then get one of the coolest animations in the game. Of Frog breaking up the mountain. And once we get inside the upcoming cave, there will be a fight that will once again be a way of checking if you're on the right RNG. So you will want to be hit by a rat in the cave. You want to be hit for 19. If you do, then you're on the right RNG and you don't have to save and reload before Magus Castle. So where the save and reload before the Reptite layer was not especially important, this one is very important because the way we manipulate things in Magus Castle is very, very interesting. And will result in one of the coolest boss fights I've ever seen. So we'll see that in a bit. So you will see BackgroundGuy here, save and reload to get back on the right RNG. So you will idle on the load screen or load menu for just the right amount of time and then reload. And the main reason for this reload is going to be, or the reason why we want to be on this RNG will be fairly apparent in just a little bit. I won't spoil it until then, because it's a sight to behold. So for the first section of Magus Castle, we just run up all the way on the left and all the way on the right, run to the last rooms, and then make our way back to the entrance hall. And after going up both sides, you will have a little bit of a fight. You run in with a character called Ozzy, and then he announces that you will have to get through Magus Castle, you would have to defeat all 100 enemies. Let's just say we will not be defeating 100 enemies. Nowhere near that amount. So this is another place you can check if you're on the right RNG. That guy, the henchman, is going to use Acid Rain, and it's going to hit Frog for either 45 or 46. If it does, then you're all good to go. If if he doesn't hit for that, then you will probably have to reload and do this section again. So here we'll equip some stuff, and most importantly, we will equip the Berserker on Frog. And this is where the being on the right RNG pays off in a very, very big way. So because Frog is on, again, I'm not gonna claim to know any specifics, but in general terms, because of how everything works out, Frog with Berserker is gonna be matching Flea's speed. Flea is the next boss we're gonna face right here. He's gonna pop up in just a moment. There he is. So basically Frog is gonna match Flea's speed, and for whatever reason it basically keeps interrupting Flea's actions. So this fight is, for the most part, until the very end, it's pure autopilot. You just let Frog attack over and over again, and then eventually the fight just ends itself. So it's gonna be a lot of idling in the menus here. And once again, which attacks are crits and which are not, and also the specific damage numbers for each attack. Everything is predictable, everything is set. So we let Frog attack 16 times, and then we finish off with one punch from, or one attack from Robo and a slash. And then one attack at the end. And then we're done. You can see Kito getting hit for 19 by the rats, which indicates that he's on the right RNG. So he will not have to do the quick little save and reset that Background Guy did earlier before Magus Castle. Alright, so Frog done with his solo show. Now Robo and Chrono get to participate for 3 attacks, and then down goes Flea. It's a very fun fight. It's so cool that it works out that way. It's very fascinating that it actually works out at all. So that was the fight with Flea. Now we go to the other side of the castle and fight Slash. Slash is a considerably more difficult fight than Flea. But as long as you stay on script, it's pretty straightforward. This fight, we just want to, once again, everything is manipulated, so Frog will crit and insta-kill these guys. Okay, this is interesting. This is a different setup than I'm used to. So I'm gonna go off the assumption that Background Guy has a plan and knows what he's doing. So Slash won't be too much of an issue. Again, I'm not used to seeing this, so we will see. It's gonna be interesting. Kito getting hit for 46. Just perfect. So we should be all set up for the exact same fight Background Guy had with Flea. As for the fight with Slash, the Slash fight is split up into 2 parts, basically. So for the first phase, he is unarmed, as he fights you, and then after you beat him up sufficiently, he will start getting serious, and he will pick up his sword, which is currently hanging on the wall. You can see it because of the combat menu. And that marks the end of the first phase. Now it's time to get serious. And again, I apologize for not making many comments on this fight, because again, it's a pattern I'm not used to. Kito going into autopilot mode here. Just waiting for Flea to die. So far everything seems fine on BackgroundGuy's side. And considering Robo is really low health and he's not doing anything about it, it seems fairly confident, so I imagine everything is just fine. See, last crit coming in from Frog on Kito's side. And then 2 more attacks and we're done. Perfect. As BackgroundGuy is nearing the end of the slash fight. And there we go. Our team of heroes a bit battered and bruised, but it's fine. 13, 4, and 0 health, plenty. So, as you can see, Kiitoksia has a slightly different approach to this fight with the skeletons. So he's just gonna let Chrono attack, and then he's gonna slash with let Frog attack and then slash with Chrono, and I'm gonna do that twice to just clear them all out very quickly. Which also likely means that it's gonna have a pattern I'm more familiar with for slash. On BackgroundGuy's side, you will see 4 fights in a row here. I'm just gonna run away from all of them. Once again, just want to preserve your RNG, keep it where it's supposed to be. That'll make our lives easier. Don't have to do any of those pesky reloads. Everything is looking good so far on Kito's side. It's the guillotines. Just have to avoid these, try not to take any damage. easy enough. And now for these rooms with the stairs, you have the little rolly guys. If you just stand still, they don't actually trigger a fight with you. And for this next one, you might also see that BackgroundGuy sneaks just holds up, and once again that kind of pushes you around the corner, so you can actually get past that fight. This room is full of traps, full of holes, so you have to know where they are and try to avoid them as best you can, which BackgroundGuy did beautifully. And similar thing here, hold directly up to skip past the ninja birds, and stand still to let the rollies roll past you. And for one of the birds there, you can also see him line up his party in a way that, like, as long as the bird doesn't hit the party leader, then you don't end up going into a fight. So you can actually use the hitbox of your other characters to push the bird out of your path, basically. So you can just squeak past them. Kiddo getting towards the end of Magus here. Magus, I mean Slash. Yes, indeed, right now. Blue. Guess I'm a bit ahead of myself. No mistake. Yeah, everything seems to be going fine. On the BackgroundGuy's side, you will see he swapped in for Luca. That's because of this fight right here. Luca is very good against these jugglers. A single fire from Luca will insta-kill any of them. And Keto finishing off Slash. Nice. Doing some equips and sheltering up. And BackgroundGuy now getting into the last fight before Magus. So second to last fight of the run. Of this run, of the race. First he has this room where he's gonna just avoid all the encounters by going along the side here. And there's also fights on the stairs there, but if you go through that door or up those stairs while facing sideways, you don't actually trigger the fight. And now this fight is very simple. You just attack the levers instead of attacking Ozzy. And how we check if we're on the right RNG here is we want the last lever, the hit on the last lever to be 119, which it looks like BackgroundGuy's gonna get. There's the 119. That's really good because it means you don't have to do, once again, it means you don't have to do a reload. This reload is actually really awkward and quite annoying. It's very precise. Like as far as reloads are concerned, it's pretty precise one. So see that Keto took some damage from guillotines, but that's not a huge issue. We'll just have to heal up before the fight against Magus. Speaking of Magus, here he comes on the BackgroundGuy side. So the fight against Magus, also Keto making it through the trap room perfectly. Now for the fight against Magus, the RNG manipulation here is very important because you can make it through this fight just fine, but what the RNG manipulation primarily does in this case is manipulates what barriers Magus will use. So Magus will start off by using a barrier, and then only attacks of that element can actually damage him, which can be kind of awkward because we have basically two elements available right now. We have Dark with Robo, and we have Lightning with Chrono. That's it. So we want to make sure that sorry, Shadow, not Dark. So we want to ensure Magus sticks to Lightning barriers and Shadow barriers. So everything is manipulated for the purpose of getting the right barriers, pretty much. Shadow barrier. We get two optimal here. We'll have two shadow barriers and then two lightning barriers. So assuming nothing goes wrong, that's what we'll get. And optimally, we will also get hit by one dark matter, which is Magus' strongest attack. If we get hit by two, then unless we heal up, someone's probably gonna die. That's someone being a frog, but again, this is the end of this particular category, so it's not really a big deal. You just try to make it through. Keito getting hit a little bit in this fight. I think he is now off RNG. Unless he saved it again by doing something I don't quite understand yet. Yeah, we'll see how his Aussie fight goes. And see if he will need to reload before the Magus fight. To reset up there so it doesn't get into an encounter. And BackgroundGuy making good progress through this fight. There goes the first charge up for Dark Matter. See on Keito's side if he is on the right RNG or if he will have to reload. Looks like it's fine. And here we get Magus' strongest attack on BackgroundGuy's side. Specifically says his strongest attack and it hits for 37. It's a thing of beauty. Once again, unequipped glitch is very potent. It's a very good strategy. So now this fight essentially just comes down to using Rocket Punch, using Slash, and hopefully getting as many crits off with Frog as possible. And Magus will go down fairly soon. That fight's over, and the time will stop once Magus kneels. Right there. So 1:55:34. and an official SRL time of 1:55:35. So congrats to BackgroundGuy. You will go on to the next round. Where I'm not entirely sure who he'll face. I should look that up in a bit. As Keto starts his Magus fight, and again, he's on the right RNG. Chrono's first hit will be 30, and then you're basically guaranteed, or you are guaranteed, that Magus will use a Shadow Barrier. And that sets you up for the entire fight, basically. The second Shadow Barrier. Now we'll move over to the Lightning Barriers. So you'll see a lot of waiting for the right moment to do something. So wait for Magus to be in the middle of an animation or use a certain attack, and then, in this case, Gazer, and then just lock in all your attacks during those animations. We'll already have seen that a lot of times. I just haven't pointed it out. Yeah, that goes for a lot of fights in this game. When this run comes down to making sure you're wasting as little time as possible by inputting attacks during animations. And in certain fights, if you don't do that, then you will be moving too slow, basically, and be off RNG. First charge going there for Dark Matter. Which again, with the unequipped glitch, is not nearly as frightening as it sounds. We'll also see Chrono and Robo be hit for 37, and Frog is hit for 66, so he's hit way harder. That just comes down to that Robo and Chrono currently have both their helmets and their armor unequipped, which gives them extra magic attack and magic defense. Whereas on Frog we still have the Ruby Vest equipped, so he only has his helmet unequipped. So that was the second charge of Dark Matter, so it's only a matter of time now. So, second Dark Matter goes off, which means Frog is gonna die. But once again, it really doesn't matter. It's gonna be over in a couple seconds anyway. There we go. So, if if anyone dies there, it's really not a big deal. And Kiitoksia finishing with a time of 2:00:13. And again, an official SRL time of 2:00:14. So, good job to both runners. Congrats to BackgroundGuy. And big shoutouts to both our runners, of course. Make sure you go follow them. me see if I can find the. Oh shoot! I can't remember the command for for the follow links. But yeah, big shout outs to both Kiitoksia and BackgroundGuy, and thank you. I appreciate it. And shout outs to Speed Gaming, of course, for hosting this. It's been good fun to both be a part of and watch. And yeah, thanks for having me. I hope I did a decent enough job of explaining most of the things that goes on in this run. Yeah, this was an excellent race, and it was it's a real shame that things went a bit sour for Kiitoksia at Masa. That was a pretty brutal hit, but still think he did very well. So GG's all around.